Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're having a look at another devblog for the next major update, and this is for an Italian cruiser. This is the Duca degli Abruzzi, which is an interesting name, and also at the same time, this thing has quite a decent amount of guns on it, and unfortunately has some of the same issues that a lot of these Italian cruisers have. But at the end of the day, it's at rank 5. It's basically going to be a stoppage before you get to one of the battleships, and that is pretty much it. It is coming to the tech tree, so this is a tech tree vehicle, which is nice to see, and hopefully at the end of the day, people will enjoy this one. There are certain cruisers I've had a really good time with, like the Bartolomeo Colleoni, and then also a few of them, like the Regolo in that area, and hopefully the Abruzzi can also be fun. Let's get into the history of this vehicle. During the early 1930s, the Regia Marina defined requirements for a new light cruiser whose capabilities should allow it to effectively face off even heavy cruisers thanks to improved combat characteristics. To achieve this, Italian shipbuilders opted for increasing the new design's firepower and giving it a revised armor scheme at the expense of some mobility. Once the design was drawn up, an order for the construction of two ships, Luigi di Savoia Duca degli Abruzzi and Giuseppe Garibaldi, was issued, with both being laid down in 1933. The construction of both vessels progressed slowly as parallel developments and tests of other warships constantly led to revisions and modifications of their design. Nonetheless, both vessels were simultaneously completed and commissioned into service in December of 1937. During World War II, both vessels served as part of the 7th Cruiser Division, taking part in only one major naval battle during the war, the Battle of Punta Stilo, in July of 1940, in which the ships exchanged fire with Royal Navy cruisers. For the remainder of the war, the ships would only assist in secondary tasks such as escorting convoys, as they were both considered too valuable to be potentially lost due to their advanced design. In July of 1941, both ships suffered torpedo strikes on 2 separate occasions, yet managed to return to port under their own power. After the Italian armistice in 1943, both vessels fought side by side, with the Allied forces as part of several missions. Surviving World War II, Duca degli Abruzzi and Giuseppe Garibaldi would both serve on the Italian post-war navy for decades to come, thanks to extensive modernizations during the 1950s. While Duca degli Abruzzi would ultimately be decommissioned in 1961, Giuseppe Garibaldi would go on to serve until 1971, before being retired from active service. By the way, War Thunder just dropped a new OST for Air Forces. It's on their official channel, so you can check it out. It is actually really nice to listen to. There's a lot of good songs in there. Whoever was playing the wooden xylophone, though, we need to talk. When it comes to the Duca degli, this machine is very much a straight-up trade-off. So you get more guns and more armor, and you get less speed, which I generally think is okay. Like, I don't think, when it comes to speed, as long as you have a decent amount of it, people will be fine with it. It's not like you're going to be stuck, moving at a snail's pace. This thing is still going to be able to do a top speed of 59 kilometers an hour, which is quite nice. But on top of that 59 kilometers an hour, you have 10 6-inch guns, or 152 millimeters, 2 in triple mounts and 2 in dual mounts. And unfortunately, when it comes to these guns, even though you have more than the previous class, you inherit the same reload as the previous class, which is, of course, 10 seconds. Now, so you have more firepower compared to the standard Italian cruisers, but you still have the problem where a lot of other nations are able to smash out damage way more than you. For example, the Newport News, which is coming in as an event vehicle, it has 8-inch guns, and also it reloads at every 6 seconds, which is just kind of crazy. But we'll have to see what goes on when it comes to this vehicle. I'm sure it will have other factors which are quite nice, like it has an additional 100 millimeters, or set of twin 100 millimeters on it, I should say. It'll have a good AA setup as well, and the armor as well is more bulky than what we've seen before. So will it stand up better to the competition at similar BRs? Yes, of course it will. but at the same time, if it gets up-tiered, it will still probably get mangled. The Italian cruisers, in my experience, have actually been quite fun to play. A lot of them are under-tiered compared to the other nations' cruisers, and the basic reason for this is because they're slightly weaker in a lot of areas, but that does mean that it gives you some interesting matchmaking. A lot of the time you actually face some destroyers, and you can pretty much manhandle destroyers when it comes to it, so it's very much matchup dependent with this thing. If you go against stuff which is basically seen as on your level, then you get mauled. But if you end up facing stuff which is a little bit lower than you, which is what happens with a lot of the Italian machines, then you could do pretty good. There is a lot of damp squibs in the Italian tech tree in general, unfortunately, for the gold side of things, or sorry, for the blue water side of things, I should say. And that kind of sucks, but, you know, c'est la vie, there are still some bright sparks. And I feel like the Abruzzi, compared to some of its brothers in the tech tree, will probably be a bright spark, and I hope people enjoy it. For me personally, it's going to take me a long time to get this one, because I'm very on and off when it comes to the Italian naval forces. I can usually put like half a day into it, and then after getting mauled by basically American ships, and then sometimes the odd German ship, and also sometimes the odd Soviet ship, British ship, and Japanese ship, I just go, you know what, I'm just going to leave this over here. Because it's not fun getting beaten up over and over again to get to the promised land, and that is something which has to be understood about a lot of these vehicles. What would help out these vehicles a lot is the lowering of modification cost for the parts and FPE, so you're not useless for 5 to 10 matches before you get those things. But for some reason in naval, we don't have that, so you only have it in ground forces, and I have no idea why that is the case. But anyway, this is a pretty decent cruiser. I hope it stacks up well against the competition, but as usual, I'm kind of worried for it. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Forge, Siegebreak, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, and also Sem Arslan, Wilkski, Uncle Bean, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.